Hey everyone, it's Lawrence Mack here, real estate broker out of Mississauga and Toronto and founder of Real Estate Rookies. And today we're going to talk about referrals and networking. So I just have a few slides to prepare about referrals and networking. I'm just going to chat for a little bit. And then at the end, you can introduce where you're from and we can maybe network and see where everyone's from and maybe get some referrals out of it. So let's just start. First question. Introduction about referrals and who am I? So again, I'm Lawrence Mack. I'm out of Mississauga and I do business in Toronto. To give you an idea about myself, this is my numbers from last year. I had approximately 50% that were from referrals and about 50% that were from my sphere. As I've said many times, the business that I like to do is mostly people who have known me from a while. So maybe about a year or more beforehand. So it's the cold business I do, whether door knocking, cold calling, whatever, is very, very minimal for my business. I am an icon agent. So I do a lot of business, but it's not from cold sources. It's from people that already know me, like me, and trust me. And that's the type of business I like to do. And so that just gives you a quick breakdown of last year. I mean, every year is obviously going to be different. But you have this would be the agent referrals. This would be here the sphere referrals. So these are people that haven't dealt with me specifically, but were referred to me by someone who knew me, liked me, and trust me. And then these are actual people who I knew from beforehand. So that gives you an idea about myself. Next one, why refer out? So there's a lot of reasons why you would refer out. The main one is geography. So let's just say you needed help in like London or Collingwood or Peterborough or something like that, and you're in the GTA. Referring out to somebody in a different location is really helpful because they know the local area, and also they're local, so they don't have to drive as far. I mean, if you had to drive, 2 or 3 hours every time you need to show a house, whether it's for a listing or for a buyer, it's a lot of work. I mean, maybe you have the time, and that's not a problem. But otherwise, it's a lot of work to go really far out. And obviously, if it's outside of your jurisdiction, such as different province or different country, then referring it out makes sense. Other reasons why you would refer out, for example, is not your expertise, such as commercial. So let's just say you're a purely residential agent and you have a question, you're listing a building or you're trying to do a sale of business or something like that. Maybe it's not your level of expertise. You should probably refer it out, or you can do it with somebody else so that you can learn some at the same time. Similarly for co-listing. So co-listing, especially when you're starting out, co-listing is a good way of referring things out because you really don't know. I mean, let's just say it's your first year and you've never done a deal. Maybe co-listing with an agent helps. Last year I co-listed a luxury property with somebody. And that's because they're new. And whether they would have gotten the deal beforehand by themselves, hard to say. But with me, it definitely helps because I have both the portfolio and the expertise to be able to deliver on that. You don't necessarily have to co-list at all. You can always try to bumble your way through it, but it's something that you might want to consider doing, especially if you have a very, very good sphere lead and you don't want to screw it up. Other reasons why you may want to refer it out, there might be some miscellaneous brokerage reasons why. So for example, some brokers may not like you to do commercial because they don't have the expertise. Some may not have the appropriate trust accounts or that kind of thing, and they want you to refer it out. There might be a lot of reasons from a brokerage level why. I mean, maybe they just don't want to do rentals. Like I have no idea. Whatever those reasons are, but if that is the reason, for example, let's just say that you're only in the GTA and they don't want you to do any listings outside the GTA, maybe that's the policy for your brokerage. But there's a few brokerage reasons why you might want to refer it out. And lastly, the reason why you're referring out is really because you want to be able to treat your sphere or the people that you're giving you're helping with. You need to make sure you have the expertise in that area. So whether the expertise is geography or the expertise is commercial, there's always different reasons why you may not want to do it yourself. Because, for example, maybe you don't know anything about farms, or you don't know anything about, the zoning in an area way out somewhere, and you don't know much about septic tanks, that kind of stuff. There's probably a good reason to farm it out as opposed to just trying to do it yourself. So those are all the reasons why you were referred out. Any questions so far? I'm just going to keep going otherwise. So types of referrals. Two types of referrals are inbound and outbound. Most people concentrate on the inbound referrals, but I am going to talk about the outbound referrals, which I did previously, which is why you want to refer it out. So inbound means that, let's just say, again, we're going to use like a Toronto-centric kind of agent. So let's just say you're in Toronto, you sell condos in Toronto, and somebody from like Kingston has like a relative that wants to list their house or list their condo, and then so they call you and they give you an inbound referral. So that's inbound referral. Outbound referral would be the opposite, which means you're in Toronto and you have a buyer, let's just say, that wants to buy a place in Kingston. So you go reach out to an agent in Kingston and then you give them the referral that way. We'll talk about the percentages later, but that's roughly the two types of businesses. Again, a lot of people concentrate a lot on inbound, but outbound is worth it. Especially if you look at the previous slide when I was talking about the different types of reasons why you want to refer it out. It's mostly because of expertise, maybe because of geography, a lot of reasons for that. So the first most important type of referral, in my opinion, would be sphere referrals. So sphere referrals are people who know you, like you, and trust you, and then they refer you to their aunt, to their friend, to like their dentist, whatever it is. These are like gold. You really want to, I mean, again, the reason why is because I concentrate heavily on my sphere. 90% of my business were people that knew me, liked me, and trusted me kind of stuff, and then referred from there. So the sphere is very, very important to make sure that you don't screw it up. So when, your really best friend says, hey, my mom wants to buy a home in London, and you're like, okay, and then you go and try to go to London, and then you bumble up the whole, transaction because you don't really know London, and then you drive there a lot. Takes a long time, all that kind of stuff. That may not be worth it because although you might get the transaction of the referral, you screwed up your relationship with your sphere because they trusted you to say, hey, you know what, why don't you deal with my mom in London, and you mess it up, and that's no good. So that's one of the reasons why you want to refer it out. And this is why this is really important, because these people already have the built-in trust for you because they know you, like you, and trust you, which I'll keep saying. And then, so that's why they're giving you the referral. The next one, which I think is important, not as important, but it depends on where you are, is agent referral. So the way you deal with agents is very similar to the way that you deal with your sphere. It is a relationship that you build up, at least again, with myself. It's a relationship that I built up over many years. And so I have lunch with them, I have coffee with them, whatever it is, and hopefully you get a referral. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just a professional relationship in which you share ideas, mastermind, that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that too. But that's the type of referrals are really agent referrals. And a lot of the agents that do this are usually out of the GTA. I mean, Toronto Real Estate Board is like 66,000 realtors, like officially about 70,000 unofficially, according to a very reliable source. Somewhere around there are the number of members. And so there's quite a bit of competition here in Toronto. But there's less competition if you go out to like, Windsor or something like that in terms of referrals. And so when you're outside the GTA, it is a lot easier to get a referral, in my opinion, than into the GTA. And lastly, the type of referrals you want to nurture would be professional referrals. So for myself, I have a very good relationship with like mortgage broker, lawyer, CPA, all those professionals that help with the regular real estate transaction. And also other small businesses, that kind of stuff. I have very good relationships with a lot of small business owners where I have gotten business either as a referral or directly with them. And that's because I do help out the business in terms of like, I'll advertise them, I'll go buy a lot of stuff from them. And then you build a relationship that way. And then again, because they have a different set of spheres, they can refer me that way. And so I do get business from my professional referrals. But in my opinion, you're not going to get as many, especially when they're related to the home transaction. So a lot of the people, especially the lawyers, mortgage people, that kind of stuff, they will tell you two things. One is that when people talk to them about real estate, it's at the end of the transaction. So sorry, I don't have any referrals for you. The second thing they'll tell you is, I know hundreds of realtors, and so you're not going to get any referrals. That's actually what happens. That's not what they will tell you, but that is what will happen. Because at the end of the day, yes, they are at the end of the real estate transaction. You know, you only talk to a lawyer when you're signing up the contract at the very, very end. And they do know, you know, like hundreds and hundreds of realtors. So these are both true. So they may not tell you this, but that is sort of the situation with professionals. So don't waste, in my opinion, too much time. I mean, the few professionals that I deal with that do give me referrals, I treat them like gold and I give them a lot of business. You know, my professionals, probably there's one particular one that I referred like more than 80 type of realtors and other type of sphere to them as business. And then it's just like a reciprocal type of relationship. And that's my goal. My goal is a long-term relationship, especially with agents in other areas as well. My goal is a long-term relationship because I will be in this business for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So having that relationship now makes a lot of sense versus having it 30 years from now. Similarly, you don't really want to screw up your relationship with the agents or have a bad rep, that kind of stuff. Because although you might get the money from this transaction from this year, again, next 20, 30, 40 years in the future, you might lose the business and it's not worth it unless you're really in it for the short term. But I don't think that's the right mentality to have if you have a long-term mindset. That's always been my mentality, which is just like this deal doesn't really matter. It's about the future deals. And so talking about, you know, other agent referrals in other areas, there's been situations where they referred somebody over and then they forgot about it. And like a year later, I'm like, oh yeah, here's your commission money. And they're like, you know, who are you? Like, what is this? And that's because I actually really maintain those type of relationships. And so although you might have forgotten you giving me the lead, I didn't forget and I have it in my notes. So all of a sudden you get this random check for like $5,000 or $10,000, like, hey, that's awesome. And then, you know, ideally over the long term, I'll get future leads from that as well. But it's not just about the leads. It really is just about the relationship. And for myself, it is just about like the integrity of keeping it up, because there's no point in screwing up a deal so I can make an extra couple thousand when over the long term, I can make so much more money or at least have a good working relationship. I've had another situation where I referred over a buyer to pre-con to an agent. And at the time, you know, they're VIP, so they were dealing with them. And then after a while, they're off of VIP. So they said, you know what, Lawrence, the thing is, it's actually available for the public now. So you can take back the client and, you know, get 100% of the commission, which was awesome from that agent as well. I'm like, you know, I really appreciate that. But I actually told them, you know what, I actually don't care about the commission. So why don't we just do the same relationship that we had now in terms of the referral fee that you're going to give to me and just deal with the client. And if they end up buying, even though it's not VIP anymore, just like, you know, we'll just do the same relationship. And, you know, the agent was very happy as well. And we have a very, very good relationship now. That particular deal didn't work out, but it's not the idea, right? I don't care about that particular deal. It's about the relationship over the next 20, 30, 40 years that matters to me. So, rookie mistakes in referring. The main mistake I see is a standard post. Hey, I just got in the business. This is my first week. And then you post all over social media, all over workplace, that kind of stuff. That's like the number one mistake I see. See, the problem with as a rookie for getting a referral is a couple of things. So the first thing, in my opinion, is that the mentality that referrals are going to fuel your business, I think, is the wrong mentality to have. That's what a lot of them have. That's what I had when I started out. I think it's a wrong mentality to have. I'm not to say that some people don't do amazing with just referrals. There are some agents I know who, you know, 80, 90% of their business is just referrals and they get so much business and it doesn't matter, but they're established. I don't think you should think in that way. I think at the end of the day, the majority of the business that you should be building up is just the regular sphere. I mean, or cold call if that's the cold business if you want. A lot of the business that you get, you need to, I guess, establish yourself as an agent, either in the area or in your area of expertise. It's very difficult that, you know, John Smith or Mary Sue or something in the middle of Peterborough says, hey, I'm new agent here. Give me all your referrals. It's like, what? Why would I take like a trusted client in GTA and give it to you when you're new and you have no idea what you're doing? But that mentality, not just agent to agent, you have to think about it in terms of sphere referrals. It's like the same thing. why would like your brother or something like that refer like their best friend or like their girlfriend's mom or something like that to you, and you just started? It's very difficult. So don't get mad when they don't refer you. And also don't get mad when they don't even use you because, again, you're new. Like, it's the mentality that is very interesting is that I covered this in the last meeting that I had, last week, which is when you're new, the thing is right when you start, people know you from what you were before. They know you as the programmer, the housewife, the electrician, the teacher, the entrepreneur, whatever you were before, the student. You were this before. A week later, you're like, hey, can you trust me with your $1 million house? I'll sell it for the most money. Like, if it was you, would you do that? The answer is probably not. You have to establish the credibility. Sometimes it usually takes 2 to 3 years, but you have to establish the credibility. Again, obviously there are some rookies that can skyrocket. It doesn't matter. Either they, fake it till they make it. Whatever they do, they can get there. I'm just saying, if you're talking a slow and steady progression, the best way is to build up your expertise and build up your credibility, so that when you're talking about open houses, you're talking about, the market, you're talking about all this kind of stuff for the past 6 to 12 months. Now your brother looks at you and says, you know what? My girlfriend's mom has a place to sell. Why don't you go talk to them? That makes it a lot easier. It's an easier sell. Or, your aunt is like, hey, why don't you go help me sell my $1 million home? Because now that you're in the business, 6 to 8 months, and I see that you're doing things, I can trust you with it. I think that's very, very important. So again, the rookie mistake that I see, going back to this, is that a lot of them focus too much on the referral end of it and not enough on building up their stable business, which is, in my opinion, the people who know, like, and trust you, and not looking for random agents in the middle of nowhere trying to refer into whatever city that they're at. Unless you can niche it well. Like, there are some that maybe they're underserviced areas in the middle of wherever you are, right? If your city is not that well known, maybe you can make a go at making a niche. In my opinion, for example, niching, I don't think that there's that much. I think a lot of people can look at me and say, yes, I'm a Toronto agent. Yes, I'm a real estate agent. And yes, I'm in Mississauga, probably in Lorne Park. Probably they can say that because of the messaging that I give out, that's positioning, and the niching of where I am. So, for example, if you're outside of Toronto, like in a different province, you'd be like, hey, yeah, Lawrence is probably in Toronto. But if you're in the GTA, you're like, okay, he's in Toronto, but specifically he's in Mississauga, no problem. And if you're looking at Mississauga, you're like, okay, specifically Lorne Park. But that takes time to build up, and that's like niching. And so at least if you're thinking about, say, Mississauga, you're thinking about me. Versus if you don't even know who I am, you have no idea where I am, and all of a sudden, you have someone who wants to sell a house in Mississauga, and I'm like, hey, I'm Lawrence Mack, sell Mississauga. And you're like, I don't know who you are. And again, I can't trust you with my uncle's house. So again, that would be my opinion about rookie mistakes. Let's go to referral issues. So these are a bunch of random topics that I came up with just so that we can talk about them. First one, how much money to charge? This one depends on where you're at and your level of expertise and the agreement that you have between you and the agent. If you want a rough finger in the air, a lot of people charge maybe about 25, 30%, something like that. It says, hey, here's a lead, here's 25, 30%. There's a spectrum here in terms of how much you can charge for a referral. It would depend on the expertise of the person on the other end. Maybe the person on the other end is say, hey, I'm the only one doing farms in the middle of whatever city I'm at. I want 50% or I want 75% or whatever, as the referred agent. And so maybe they only give you 10% or something like that. Similarly, people place a higher value on a solid lead versus a cold lead. Okay, so let's talk about this in plain numbers as an example. So let's pretend I'm in Mississauga, and you're in the middle of like Thunder Bay, and you want to refer an agent, and you want to refer somebody over to me. So typically, let's just say I give you 25%. Okay, great. You give me a buyer, I'll give you 25%. Some people, for the 25%, may not want to do it. They say, hey, who is this referral, first of all? When the person says, yeah, this was my sister-in-law, and she just got a job in, downtown Toronto, and wants to commute from Mississauga because her in-laws are there. Can you take on this lead? And then be like, that's like a pretty solid referral because it's not like a flaky referral. The alternative is if it was some random cold lead. So maybe somebody's running an online lead generator, and all they do is generate like hundreds and hundreds of leads, and they just like throw them everywhere, and then whatever percentage they can get, they'll take. In that case, you might want to give them less than 25%. It's not really solid. Basically, in this case, would be the one who would have to call up the lead, pre-qualify them, make sure they're okay, make sure they're motivated, all that kind of stuff. It's like I'm doing the majority of the work. All I got was like a phone number. You may not want to give as much of a percentage for that. Or similarly, if you want to refer a totally cold lead like that, maybe you may not want to expect as much, 25%, but that's between you and the other agent. Similarly, internationally, when I refer out to like US, I did one to Puerto Rico last year, rough numbers about 25, 30% is how much I got in terms of referral fee. Is if you're co-listing, you would probably do higher, but that's between you and the other listing agent. So typically when you're new, you might want to co-list with someone who has experience either in your area or that type of price point, or maybe you don't know anything about listing a house, so you want to co-list with somebody, in which case you might want to give them zero, you might want to take 0%, or maybe you'll take some small percent or 50%. Depends on what you can come up with. Maybe it's 75%, and you're like, look, I'm only going to give you 25%, and you list it, and you teach me everything, and I'll take 75%. Maybe it might work. I don't know if I would do that, but maybe another agent would. This one's also pretty contentious, number 2, lifetime referral. What that means is some people do it on a per transaction basis. You give me a lead, I give you, say, 25%, and then we part ways, and now it's my client. Some people like to do the lifetime referral method, which is you refer a lead, and now I give you a percentage lifetime for that particular agent, for that particular lead. Again, work on it with your client beforehand. Work on it with the referral beforehand. So again, I'm talking here about agent referral to see what you want to do. I've done it multiple ways, depending on the agent, depending on the relationship. My preference is lifetime referral, both when I refer out and refer in. So if you refer into Toronto, that's basically your client, and I will give you a percentage lifetime. That's because my mentality is that, when you introduce, in the Thunder Bay example, you referred over your sister-in-law, I would not have ever gotten that particular lead unless you had introduced it to me. And so I feel that is worth a lifetime referral amount. Some people don't. Some people are like, you know what? You referred it in, and maybe I'll give you a referral for like, 5 years, 1 year, 0, like just for this transaction, and that's all you get. And after that, I got to work on it. So it's no longer your client. It's up to you, and between you and the agent, it's best to try to figure that out beforehand. Best to figure that out beforehand. Formalize on a contract. So my very first referral, which is in London, was a verbal one. Basically, hey, can you deal with this? Yeah, great. On signing, when it was closing, hey, sign this referral form, no problem. Then I signed it, it all got done. That is the best way of doing it, in my opinion, but it may not always work. So the reason why you want to formalize a contract is, again, because if you refer it out to some person and the person does not pay you, now you might have some type of legal recourse. The problem with getting the legal recourse is people feel that whenever you have a contract, it's like magical. It's like, oh, that guy owes you 25%. So a magic wand gets waved, and then all of a sudden you get 25% in your bank account. That's not how it works. How it works is, hey, you owe me 25%. And the other agent says, screw off. You're like, wait a minute. So then you try like going through the broker records or something. You try communicating with their manager. That doesn't work. And then now you have to like sue them. Judge says, yep, looks like they owe you the money. And then now you have to collect on the money. Like it's a very long process to get the money. It's not just a magic wand saying you get the money. Similarly, when I talk with a lot of rookies, they think the same thing of BRA. Oh, a BRA signed for whatever the percent the BRA is. So if I don't get paid that much from the listing agent or as a co-op, I magically get the money. It's like, you don't magically get the money. All the contract says is it was an agreement between you two, and now you have to actually go get the money. And you go get the money in a BRA, for instance, through arbitration. After arbitration, you go through like, small claims court. Then you try to get a judge to get a ruling. Then you try to get the money from the person. Then you try to collect. Like, it's a long process. It's not just magic. Anyway, that's just about context. Well, knowing that. So all I'm saying is when you want to formalize a contract, for myself, all the agents and even clients that I deal with, I want to deal with one person, in my opinion, that's reputable, who's ethical, who I like, who I want to deal with. I've dealt with some agents I do not want to deal with. Not that many, surprisingly. People always say a lot about agents, that kind of stuff. Honestly, most of the agents I deal with are awesome. They're awesome people. So, occasionally stuff happens, but they're still awesome people. But you want to work on a deal where, for example, like my first referral deal, where basically I'm just a handshake and a phone call, and then it's done. And then now we just write the paperwork. That's the type of relationship I want over the next 20, 30, 40 years. That's the type of relationship I expect to give people when they deal with me, because of the same reason. If I screw up one deal and I make a few extra $1,000, like now I don't get any other future deals, and I don't get any deals from any of their friends. Like, why would you do that? It just seems very short-sighted to me. But again, it is your business. You can do whatever you like. So I don't think that the piece of paper, in my opinion, really protects that much. When I refer off out of Canada internationally, US, Puerto Rico, any other type of countries like that, it's the same thing. I will try to get the paperwork signed, but I mean, at the end of the day, if the paperwork is signed, but they don't pay me, or they don't pay me the right amount, like how am I supposed to know? And how am I supposed to get the money back? So you sue internationally, you get some judge to say, okay, he owes you the money. And then what? You somehow garnish their wages out of like Puerto Rico? Like, how does any of this work? I have no idea. Right? It's very difficult. So that's why you want to deal with somebody that you know, whether it's through referral. So sometimes I would just go to a city and then ask other people who have dealt with that particular city, hey, what agents do you know? That helps as well. The other thing you need to formalize the contract for is back office stuff, which in general, I don't like back office stuff, but I'll quickly explain it. Your back office might want you to have a formalized referral between the client and the other agent. A lot of people don't really like that. I personally don't like that, but if it's a requirement of your brokerage or it's a requirement of RICO, whatever it is, just get it done. But it's a very iffy topic that some people don't really like to broach, which is, you're referring your brother to someone in the middle of like Collingwood, and then all of a sudden you're asking your brother to sign a contract. Oh yeah, and just so you know, you get 25% of the referral. And then, maybe you had that conversation, not a problem, but maybe on closing, your brother's like, what the hell? That's random. I didn't know you can get referral fees. I didn't know it was this much referral fee. I want to send the referral fee back, all that kind of stuff. It gets sticky. And so that's why some people don't like to get that paperwork signed. That depends on your brokerage. Talk to them. If they don't, they don't. If they do, they do. Number 4, bird dog fees. So in Ontario, you're not allowed a bird dog fee. What a bird dog fee is let's just say your neighbor says, hey, I got my brother who wants to go buy a house. When that happens, I want $5,000 cash. This is not allowed. This is against your RICO and everything else. You're not allowed. So just don't do it. I've heard of people doing it. It's up to you. Again, it's your business. If you want to skirt the law or you want to be in really, really gray zone, up to you. Again, gray zone, whether you want to just take them out to lunch and just have lunch with them or whatever, that's okay. If you want to give them like a $10,000 diamond bracelet, whatever you want to do, I have no idea. That's not something I would do, but I would stay away from it. A lot of people do talk about it and try to get around, instead I'm going to give cards, I'm going to do this, like whatever. It's your license, I'll call it license. It's your license, right? If you want to play around with that, it's up to you. I'm in here for the long term, 20, 30, 40 years. If you feel it's worth it in the short term, just so they can get this one listing, go nuts. Right? That's up to you. So that's all I have to say about the bird dog fees. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to do with bird dog fees. So again, bird dog fees has to do with giving money to somebody who is not a registrant in Ontario. That is what the bird dog fee is. So if the person is a registrant, as in another agent, then you can give whatever percentage or whatever flat fee or whatever you want to do. That's perfectly okay. But if it's just someone who's not registered, you can't just randomly give them money. And especially you cannot advertise about it and say, hey, we'll give you like $300 for your leads or something. That's just not smart. But up to you. I'm not here to be the RICO police or whatever. It's it's your business. Lastly, Facebook popularity contests. This is touched on a lot. My opinion about this is when you ask for a referral out of a city in a Facebook group, oftentimes you will get the most popular agent. Whether or not it's the best agent or not, I mean, it's up to you. I don't know if it's necessarily the best agent, but they're probably the most popular agent, and they're probably good, but they may not be. So do your due diligence. Similar to professional referrals when I give. So for example, when I give a referral to like a lawyer or something like that, if I give a referral to a city, unless I have a relationship with an agent there already, oftentimes I will try to give more than one option, because the fit, everyone has a different fit, and the agent I refer may not be the right fit for them. So I usually try to give one or two when I don't have an established agent. When I do have an established agent, that's usually my go-to, because I know they've dealt with the client previously. I know I could trust them. I know ideally they give me referrals inbound, although that really hasn't happened yet. But that is what I'm looking for. Similarly, when I look for other agents, actually, I try not to look for ones that are really, really long in the business. Sometimes they're very good, and that's okay. Well, honestly speaking, if you've been in the business for 30 years and you're out of like somewhere, and the number of people that you know in Toronto is probably like 300, like, why are you referring it to me unless you have a very, very good relationship? And honestly, if I refer 1 or 2 clients over to you and we do deals and I'm not getting anything back, same thing with my professional relationships. I do talk to them, like my lawyer, CP, that kind of stuff. I'm like, look, I've referred over like 100 people. So am I going to get any referrals or not? Because if I'm actually not going to get any referrals, I'm going to let you know that I'm not happy about that situation. So same thing with other agents. Like, okay, yeah, no problem. They're happy to, yeah, give me. That's great. I'm happy about that. But like, if you're just a giver, I mean, if you're just a taker, you're not going to give anything to me. Not that I personally care, but my family cares. They would rather I spend time with people, with agents, with Sphere that will help our family, as opposed to spending time with people that will not help my family. So for example, the friends that decided not to buy or sell with me, my wife is just like, why would you deal with them? And I don't really deal with them that much, because it is not worth it for my family for me to spend time and money and effort to, help out that particular family, have lunch with them, help out their kids, whatever it is. And then at the end of the day, they just don't even think back. Like, they're purely in the taking mode, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. If you're taking, not a problem. I just had to learn to identify it quicker and then cut you out of my life. That's basically it. So back to the Facebook popularity contest. So you will see that online a lot. Again, I would recommend, if you don't know anybody in the area, just to take a couple of names and vet them. I actually vet them heavily. Most cities I go into, I would probably get names for about 3 to 5 agents. Then I call up all the agents, and then I'll interview them all before I refer them over. Then I'll refer over like 2 or 3 names. And the main thing I'm looking for, I mean, at this point, I'm very experienced in that I know what bullshit looks like. I know roughly your level of production. I know roughly your attitude. I know roughly what you do. So it is very, very easier for me to figure out who might be a good match. So some of it is just a personality match. Maybe someone's super outgoing, that kind of stuff. And your client's super outgoing, they're going to click because they both like horses or whatever. That would help. But sometimes you don't know. But so I usually interview about like the level of production, how long they've been in business, that kind of stuff. There was one, this is on the side. There's one I remember, this was somewhere in the States. I was interviewing agents for a client, and I basically asked, how their business was. And then we talked for a bit, and she had very, very good production, very, very good production. She bought and sold, she sold a lot of houses. And then I'm like, okay, so how's it going now? And basically she's like, well, the thing was, when I was selling all the houses, my boyfriend was like a developer. So I sold a lot of his houses, but now that we've broken up, I'm finding it very difficult to like list houses and like get that type of business, which is a red flag to me. I mean, clearly the only way that they got business, they might have been very good, but the way that they got their business was just through their boyfriend, like solely. And they don't know how to maybe deal with all that kind of stuff. So out of all of the different applicants that I was looking at for that particular city, I just sort of, extra out and then look for other people. So that's just an example of how you would interview. And other stuff, you can tell if they, well, at least I can tell if they are relatively new and experienced just by the way they speak and the things that they talk about. And so that's what I'm looking for as well. But if you find someone who's like up and coming in a new city, maybe you have a new relationship there, and then you can start building that relationship. So I'm always about relationship building, both with my sphere and with other agents. That's all I do all day. That's the things I enjoy. So that's why I like to do it. Okay, Facebook popularity contest. Oh, I guess we're done. All right. Does anyone have any questions about any of the stuff I talked about? I thought I had one more slide, but I guess not. I know it was a mouthful and I ranted on for quite a while. Does anyone want to, I guess, tell me whereabouts you're from? And then maybe someone can have a question, because you never know, especially if you're out of the GTA, you know, all of a sudden someone wants to sell something in Kenora or something. You're like, hey, I'm an agent in Kenora. And someone else is like, oh, I just have a brother that wants to buy something in Kenora, and then you hook up. You never know. A lot of it is just opportunity. So does anybody want to let me know where you're from or raise a hand or something? I can go call on you.
I'm from Oakville.
Who's
Ontario. Adrian.
Adrian. Show yourself, Adrian.
Sure.